Good morning. I believe we now have 10 members, and we can call the council into order. Mr. Clerk?
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Misikowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Fiagosa, Whiteside, Padilla. 10 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
All right, thank you. The council is in session for Friday, January 9th, and we do have a custom on Friday for presentations, so let me recognize at this time jointly for presentation Council Members Villaraigosa and Councilmember Reyes.
You guys come on over here.
I was going to say I can't see the two council members.
I just looked around. Okay. This is why they're champions. Colleagues, I'd like to first welcome our special guests, Loyola High School. We have with us, yes. We have with us Father Robert Walsh, the president of Loyola High School, Bill Thomason, the principal of Loyola High School, Mr. Chris O'Donnell, the athletic director of Loyola, and Mr. Stephen Barber, the team chaplain. And joining me in this presentation is Antonio Villaraigosa, our councilman of the 14th District. Colleagues, on December 12th of last year, something very special happened to these young men standing behind me, whom you may have guessed by now are football players. After being down 14-0 early in the second quarter to perennial powerhouse Long Beach Poly, these young men of Loyola High School stormed back to win what is now their 5th championship in school history by a score of 21-17, making them the 2003 CIF Southern Section Division I champions. And for that, it is our pleasure to have them here today. Let's give them another round of applause. For their efforts, these young men of Loyola ended with a final record of 11-3 and finished ranked number 10 by the LA Times and number 6 in the Western region by USA Today. For me, Loyola High School is a major cornerstone of a very, very challenging part of District 1. But they have been that ray of light that has given many opportunities for many young people, not only in the district, but in the region, in the city. And if you look at the alumni, you would be astounded at the incredible support this school has had over the years. As they continue to grow, They continue to look at ways in which they can interact with the community. I've had the parochial schools in my district talk about some of the young men at Loyola visiting, tutoring, providing the kind of leadership and giving that not only talks about the status of Loyola, but about the education, the heart, the character. And this is the kind of school we have, and I'm very, very honored to have them as part of the First District. The previous championships occurred in 1962, 1963, 1975, 1990, and of course this year. But before we present the certificate of congratulations, I'd like to ask my colleague Antonio Villaraigosa and give him the opportunity to speak. But I got to share with you a little story. One night, it was really cold, the phone was ringing, I couldn't get to it. But the next day, I go through my voicemail, I hear this raspy voice yelling and screaming, and I hear the councilman, Villaraigosa, at the game, "We're just winning, we just won, can you hear it?" You see, hear all the crowd, and it's Antonio in the bleachers there with the game, actually just relishing the moment and the excitement of that winning game. So, Councilman Villaraigosa.
Thank you, Councilmember Reyes. In fact, the joke was I wasn't excited, and I can tell you I was. And I was because I had an opportunity to see these young men over the year. And I can tell you, my son also was on the freshman football team. And the one thing that you see that characterizes, if you will, these Loyola teams is they're teams of great character. And you mentioned the word character, and to me, I think that's what Loyola's all about, and that's what Loyola sports teams are all about. I saw that in the freshman team, and I saw that on the varsity team. Many of the other teams, they play in the toughest league in the CIF, in the country. And in fact, the team they beat, Long Beach Poly, has won 16 championships, 5 of the last 7. And this team had something that you saw throughout the games: discipline, they had conditioning, they had smarts, and most importantly, they had heart. And they were down 14-0 against a team that many thought has some of the best talent in the nation, and they overcome. And I'll tell you, by that second quarter, you could see, or you could feel, I wasn't on the field, but you could feel the terror in their bodies as they were getting hit by these guys. And I, as someone who has a son at this school, felt a great deal of pride to see these young men, because some of them will go on to play football in college. Some may even go on after that. But all of them are going to come back to this city, and they're going to give back, because this is a school that not only is among the highest academically, they have great sports teams. They have young men that engage in service. In fact, these young men have the highest requirement for service of any school in the city. You see them working with the homeless. You see them at Homeboy Industries on the east side. You see them giving back in a way that the tradition of Loyola is all about. So I am very, very excited to join my colleague Ed Reyes here in honoring these great young men, this great institution, the great leadership, Coach Grady, President Walsh, Mr. Thomas, Principal Thomas, all of you who have been a big part of this great win and the great tradition that is Loyola High School.
Thank you. Let me also recognize that Mr. Ludlow would like to. Mr. Ludlow, this.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say a couple things. Ed, thank you for bringing the team up here. And I wanted to acknowledge one thing you mentioned, that you'd seen Villaraigosa in the bleachers at a football game. And I just want to say he's real familiar with that position. No, it's a joke. Roosevelt, man. Roosevelt.
That's right.
I'm messing with you. I love you, brother.
All right, that was a good joke.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna
Joke's on him.
I just wanted to acknowledge that there are also two young men back there. I know Councilman Villaraigosa just mentioned them, but we've got a very proud mother here, Avis Ridley Thomas, because Sinclair and Sebastian Ridley Thomas are in the back. I want to give them a round of applause. And yeah. But more to the point, both Councilmember Villaraigosa and Councilmember Reyes have brought you all here today because we are all so honored. We're so proud. We couldn't feel better about Los Angeles. You all have made us very, very proud, and we congratulate you and your families. Good luck to each and every one of you as you go on. We hope that you return next year. We know that Dorsey and a couple other schools and LA High are going to give you a real run next year, but we're very proud of you guys. We love you. Thank you, and welcome to Los Angeles City Hall.
Mr. Parks.
Faithful alumni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to stand and congratulate Loyola. Having grown up in the parochial school system, I can really appreciate not only the education, but the fact that your athletic endeavors. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to go back to one of your old nemesis at Mount Carmel, where the site of one of the schools that were probably the two big powerhouses in Catholic football when I was growing up, Mount Carmel and Loyola. No matter what school you went to those games to watch those teams play. And I just want to say, from my era, Steve Grady was one of the greatest football players that this city has ever seen, and now he's turned out to be one of the greatest coaches. And so you have a real living legend for somebody that was born in the 40s and 50s that watched football in the city of Los Angeles. And I just also want to say, also having watched the Ridley Thomas boys grow up over the years, just glad to see them a part of a championship team because they're also a part of a championship family. So I just say congratulations.
And our council cheerleader, Mr. Labange.
You can't say that there now, Cindy. Good morning. I'd like to follow Councilmember Parks to talk about Coach Grady because I had brothers who went to Loyola. I didn't have the grades to get to Loyola. I'm glad Dennis Zine is not listening because he would rib me about this. But I went to John Marshall, which is a great public high school in Los Angeles. But Loyola is the oldest high school in our city. Loyola is, and it's a tremendous campus that is there that over the years has really developed not just in athletics but in other areas. And Ed Reyes, the way you articulated their program that Loyola has, every high school in Los Angeles should have that community commitment. I see them in community activities throughout Los Angeles, and as Antonio mentioned, at Homeboy Industries and doing the work, that's so important. But I want to talk about your coaches, because coaches make men, and coaches make women. I was proud to read the story about your high school, Janice Narborn, the city champion in basketball in their big game they have this weekend, and the coaches that helped develop those women to play basketball. I'm proud of your football coaches who do such a good job of developing you, because what you learned this last season will carry you for life, and the friendships that you've made will carry you for life. So it's so important. So I'm just so proud of all of you. I'm proud of Loyola Cross Country because I see them at 5 in the morning or 5:30 in Griffith Park running the trails because they were state champs. And so I could talk forever, Madam President, about Loyola High School and the football, but I won't. I'll just throw one ball and see who catches it. All right, one-handed, Antonio.
Thank you.
I was waiting for that football.
He always throws it, man.
Okay. I'd like to ask, if I may, I'd like to ask Father Walsh to the microphone, please, for a few words.
Thank you. Thanks, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman. Madam President and members of the council. On behalf of Loyola High School of Los Angeles and our championship CIF Southern Section Division I football team, I'd like to thank you for the great honor that you bestowed on us today in recognizing us. In addition, it is truly an honor for us to represent the city of Los Angeles as well, and to serve the city in the crucial work of education of young people. Both myself and the entire school community are deeply grateful to Councilman Reyes, our councilman in the 1st District, and to Councilman Villaraigosa for sponsoring this honor for us today. Thank you so much, gentlemen. As the oldest high school, as we heard, in the city, we are committed to educating students that are not only successful in academics, but also successful as moral people. And I'd like to express our pride and our esteem for this great team because they are accomplished not only in athletics this year, but also in scholarship, as all of them will go on and attend college after they graduate from high school at Loyola. And so, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you of the Loyola community for your commitment to wisdom, to excellence, and to compassionate service of others. And on their behalf, I thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Father Walsh. I'd like to present this congratulatory certificate to you on behalf of Councilmember Villaraigosa, the rest of the council, and myself for these great accomplishments. And we have more for the rest of the staff. We'll do that behind the council chamber. But for this moment, I'd like to present this to you on our behalf. Thank you, sir. Now, I'd like to, there's another part to this presentation, and I wanted to especially acknowledge Coach Grady. Coach Grady has done something very special, but you should know that he has been part of the 4 of the 5 championships that Loyola has won, and that person is Steve Grady. Come on up, Coach Grady. He was a head coach. This is his second championship, the first one coming in 1990. But as Councilor Parks has acknowledged, he played on the 1962 and 1963 championship teams. So we have certificates for all the assistant coaches. It gives me great pleasure to present this certificate to the head coach of Loyola High School, Mr. Steve Grady. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to share a few words.
I know this is a tremendous honor for our team and for Loyola High School, and I'm so honored to represent the team here today. And it's certainly nice to see somebody who remembers the Mount Carmel Loyola rivalry, because that does go back a few years. But I want to thank the City Council for this tremendous honor to our school and to our team. I've got a tremendous group of young men back here that have make this city proud, and I was very honored to coach them. And I'd like one of our captains to maybe speak on behalf of the team and give you a formal thanks. And that's Scott Dakey, our quarterback.
Madam President and esteemed members of the council, I just want to thank all of you for this great honor and being able to come and just be able to have all this display made for us. We go out and get to do something that we love, and to feel that we get to be honored for the city and doing something is just so much more. I just want to thank you for everything that you guys have given us, and to be representatives of the city of Los Angeles is just great for us. And as you can see, I'm not just the only one. We have a great team out here, great coaching staff, and it's just a privilege to play for Loyola High School and the city of Los Angeles, so I thank you very much.
Mr. Labange?
Yeah, Councilman Reyes, can I ask Scott a quick
Not another
question?
football, is it?
No, quick question. Scott, because you're a Loyola guy, you're a smart guy. Now, you watch pro football, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when the coaches go like this, when they call a play, why do they do that?
Because they don't want the other team, because they don't want to give out their secrets that they're really calling a bunch of plays and then I make the decision.
Well, no. That's pretty good. You're very good. But the truth is, a running play is a shorter call. So the coach, if he calls a running play, I right trap 62, but a passing play is a longer call.
Well, that's what you would think, but with this coaching staff and how much work they put into this is
why I went to John Marshall High. Thank you, Loyola.
What did he say?
Thank you very much, Council. Appreciate this moment. And again, congratulations, Loyola champions. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
We're going to go in the back and take a picture.
Members, we are in session and have no other presentations this morning. So in accordance with the council's new policy, we will start with the public comment. And we have 2 cards that were received for public comment. Let me call up at this time Cynthia Ruiz.
Good morning, Madam President. Good morning, council members. My name is Cynthia Ruiz, and I'm the Commissioner on the Board of Public Works. And on behalf of the Department of Public Works, I wanted to remind all the council members and the residents that this is our last weekend for the Christmas tree recycling program. We have a Christmas tree recycling program currently going on, and thanks to Council Member Labange, he helped us with our press conference last week. And this is a environmentally friendly way to dispose of the Christmas trees, and also a safety factor, because we're finding that in some of the areas that these Christmas trees are being lit on fire. This is a great program where we have a partnership between 2 of our bureaus, the Bureau of Sanitation and the Bureau of Street Services. So this is the last weekend. There's 2 ways to dispose of the Christmas tree: either cut up the Christmas tree and put it in the green recycling bin, or the residents can come to any of our 16 centers throughout the city of Los Angeles to dispose of the Christmas tree. Now, if the residents do come to any of our 16 locations, we will give them a certificate for a 20-pound bag of mulch. And this year we've partnered with the Department of Water and Power, and the Department of Water and Power has generously donated some energy-saving light bulbs. So if any of the residents have questions, they can call 311 and they can get the location nearest to them. So please support our program, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for that announcement. We also have a card submitted by Mr. John Walsh in the public comment. Mr. Walsh, would you like to address us?
I'm really surprised that most of the city council here send their children to private schools. Not a very good vote of confidence for our public schools. Speaking as a public school teacher at LAUSD since 17 years, you seem to be interested mostly in giving out awards. Later on, we're going to be talking about Community Redevelopment Agency. I hope people are watching, and God knows no one is here today. I hope those about 30,000 people who watch that realize the Community Redevelopment Agency, which combines the worst aspects of capitalism with the worst aspects of socialism, with none of the redeeming qualities of either side, was exposed by Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes just a few weeks ago. How they take property from one person and give it to a politically connected developer, which is what Mr. Garcetti wants to do today. I hope you realize that your big CRA project, at which our Chief Parks spoke, the Hollywood Highland project. Does anyone know what happened to the Hollywood Highland project? It was built at $700 million with public subsidy. The entire underground parking, public subsidy, and as this day we lose out of parking funds $500,000 a month because of it. $700 million. It's being sold next month to a company called CIM by the developers for $200 million. Yes, you haven't seen it in the papers. Thanks to the CRA in the city of Los Angeles, we lost. There was a write-down of $1.5 billion at Hollywood and Highland. And the CRA is going to come up here in a few minutes and tell you they want to spread the wealth, the CRA development wealth, from Hollywood and Highland to Hollywood and Vine, where they have a bogus project. And when you listen to them, they will talk about the W Hotel, that they are going to bring the W Hotel. Eric isn't here. Little Ricky Garcetti, here he is. Eric, Little Ricky here. He is going to tell you that he has an agreement with the W Hotel and the city to spend $200 million building a hotel at Hollywood and Vine. Now, all I ask you is to show us that, or to have somebody from come up and say there's a date certain they will build it. We don't think they have the money to build it. I just want you to understand that I haven't been here since May 20th. I still have a job. When I take the day off from work, I lose $175. Now, I hope you should be flattered by that. And I ask any of you, would you pay $175 to see a show? But I think the show is so good, I consider it better than The Lion King. Later.
That concludes the cards that were submitted for speaking, so the public comment period is now closed. Mr. Clerk, what is before us?
First item is approval of the minutes.
Mr. Labange moves, Ms. Hahn seconds. Minutes are approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
They are approved.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Madam President, I believe there's been a request to continue item 6 to Tuesday, January 13th.
Is there any objection to continue item number 6 till Tuesday? Hearing none, that matter is continued.
On the regular agenda, item 1 is an item notice for public hearing. Council should deny the protest and confirm the assessments.
There are no cards submitted. Let me open the public hearing and close the public hearing. The matter is now before us for the denial of the protest and confirmation of the assessments. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved.
Items 2 through 5 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Any items special? Ms. Hahn?
Yeah, I'd like to call item 4 special, please.
Item 4 is called special. Any other items, 2, 3, or 5? Item 5 is also called special. So that leaves items 2 and 3. Let's open the roll on those. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Those are approved.
Items 7 and 8 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
There are no cards submitted on items 7 and 8. Members, the 7 and 8 are before us. Any specials? If not, open the roll on items 7 and 8. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Let's recess our regular meeting to go into the special council meeting. Call the roll, please.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Whiteside, Padilla, 12 members present and a quorum.
All right, those matters are before us.
Items 1 and 2 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Anyone wishing to speak on items 1 or 2 on the special agenda? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Mr. Parks, would you like to call? No, I'm sorry. No, okay. Anyone wants to call item 1 or 2 special? Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to comment, this issue, both of these come before us, basically is the normal transfer from Water and Power that basically roughly about $180 million plus. The issue is that we need to move this forthwith because it will take 30 days for the ordinance to move. Also, the fact that the controller needs this money, it's been already programmed and allocated in this year's budget, and so it is important that we move forward on this today as quickly as possible. Also, just to add to our budget woes, this is just about a couple of $1 million short than our expectations, so we will have to cover that as we move forward in other budget hearings, but we do need to get this $180+ million into the controller's hands to pay our bills. So I'd ask that we have an aye vote and also forthwith.
All right, there's no one else wishing to speak, so item 1 is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Now item 2 is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, those are both approved, and we will send those per request forthwith to the mayor. Let us now adjourn the special council meeting and return to the regular meeting and the items that were called special.
Item 4 was called special by Councilmember Hahn.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, this is a receive and file report of the Harbor Department's $500 million annual budget, but I wanted to call this special just to have an opportunity to highlight some of the things that I think we all should be aware of that I think are really important for this huge economic engine down in San Pedro and what they're going to be contributing really to the economy of this area. Let me just highlight some of the things that are in this budget. We have $28 million that the Port of Los Angeles is going to spend on security measures. That's huge. Part of that is equipment. Part of that is increased budget for the port police down there, safety training, disaster preparedness. And one of the things that this budget does is create a new position, which is the Port Director of Homeland Security. This is the first time we've ever done that in the city of Los Angeles, and we think that's important, and that's part of this budget. We're also building a brand new state-of-the-art headquarters for our port police. And remember, we're one of the only ports that has our own specialized police force, and we think this is really important. But this does not negate, and I hope, Councilman Weiss, you're still with me as we continue to press the federal government to make port security homeland security. We've done a good job in our airports across this country, but nevertheless, port security is still not on the radar screen for our federal government like it should be. So this $28 million is what our port is paying for homeland security issues to keep our port secure. But that does not negate the fact that we're still going after the federal government to provide this multi-year funding mechanism where we can build yet this huge container inspection facility so we can begin inspecting the some 6 million containers that come in and out of our port on a regular basis. You know, $5 million of this budget is for this brand new waterfront redevelopment, which I envision as being a great asset in the city of Los Angeles. It's going to be a grand promenade. It's going to be new shops and new retail. So all of the city of Los Angeles can come and enjoy our waterfront and actually look at our working harbor on a regular basis. $2 million of this is going to be for a brand new marina that we're building down in the Port of Los Angeles, which will again bring more retail and more people who want to recreate down at the Port of Los Angeles. I've also wanted to point out that we're still have this ongoing quest to separate the industrial uses of the Port of Los Angeles with residential uses, particularly in Wilmington. This is a community that has really suffered as a result of the expansion and the ongoing industry at the port. We've got money in this budget to finally find a way to move all storage containers out of residential areas in the city of Los Angeles and build what we're calling as a container land so that people and kids don't have to walk by huge stacks of empty containers on a daily basis. We also have funding in here for additional recreational spaces in Wilmington, open space parks. And I just really want to thank the port staff. I want to thank this new creation of the Port Community Advisory Committee, which is made up of citizens in the harbor area, for really realizing that there's a new day. No longer is it just about the volume of containers, just about international trade. It's really about creating a quality of life and ultimately an economic revival, not only for the harbor area, but in my opinion, all of the city of Los Angeles. So I just wanted to highlight that for my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you. I want Ms. Hahn to know, Ms. Hahn, I want you to know that my microphone is breaking, that indeed I couldn't agree with you more. We need to continue to put the pressure on the federal government to provide more money for port security. And in fact, in part for that reason, today I've put a motion in that calls on the federal government to create a major urban area threat level replenishment fund. People would be shocked to know that the recent orange alert we've been going through since December 21st that is allegedly being reduced today, although it's not being reduced at airports, which means LAX is still going to be at a heightened level of alert. The city of LA and any other big city doesn't get any reimbursement from the federal government for orange alerts. Literally none. I mean, the best you can hope for is that one day in a future federal grant, you'll be able to apply for some reimbursement for some portion of your costs, but they'll disallow some other portion of the cost. And it's absolutely unacceptable. There is no bill in Congress actually to deal with this, and so I'm proposing today. I'm really grateful that Mr. Parks, the chair of our budget committee, who's so concerned about our city's bottom line, is seconding it, that Congress and the administration create an Orange Alert Fund that will make cities whole immediately when they ramp up. Because my concern is that one day we're going to see sort of the boy who cried wolf syndrome. We're going to see cities, hopefully it will not be this one, but it is going to be some city coming to your hometown soon that will one day not take Tom Ridge up on his offer to raise the nation's threat level, and that will be, and then we'll all be more vulnerable as a result of that. So I just want you to know that I could not agree with you more, Ms. Hahn. Thank you for pushing your button on this item.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Mr. Weiss, as you said there, I follow this because San Pedro is one of my favorite areas of the city. After that's out of my district. I love my neighborhood that I live in, but there's nothing like San Pedro. But what's so important is the efforts you've done to create an impact on the community that's there and what's going on there. And the cooperation between the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach, which is so important, because we don't realize this is, I think, the third busiest port in the world, in the absolute world, which is so wonderful to see that that is starting to focus on community, and also this very important issue related to the challenge that we face now and will face in the months ahead and years ahead with security. And that cooperation is so important. But the one element that I strongly on the security, but also on the community side, the area of redevelopment of the port. And I used this example the other day. I said when the Los Pobladores walked from the Mission San Gabriel, and if they didn't see the Los Angeles River, they would have ended up either in San Pedro or Santa Monica, and we've been in the city of San Pedro or city of Santa Monica because it's water. If you look at California, San Francisco's on the water, San Diego's on the water, Seattle's on the water. We're just inland a little bit here, but now you're taking that effort to turn it around and to make it a destination. The only thing I didn't like that wasn't in the budget is the call to change the name of the Harbor Freeway to the San Pedro Freeway. But we'll work on that because we'll do more in 2004. Anyway, Ms. Hahn, I want to thank you for a lot of those points, but that's the effectiveness, Madam President, as you do such a good job in the 11th District, Janice in the 15th, of focusing on those issues, especially to make the port responsive to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. This matter, as having now been presented, is before us. Open the roll on item 4. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Item 5 is called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, this brings to a semi-conclusion discussions that we started almost 2 years ago in this council. Under the leadership of Ms. Gruhl, myself, the committees at the time of EDE and HCD, of looking at our consolidated plan, our federal monies that we use to combat poverty, to try to eradicate poverty in the city, and to look at affordable housing and other issues, and struggling to try to make sure that the money that we spend doesn't get spent in an ad hoc way, that it's done strategically, that we look at poverty statistics, that we make sure that all parts of the city, be that the valley, be that the east side, be that the west side, the south side of this town, make sure that all communities have money to perform catalytic projects to be able to bring economic development, jobs, affordable housing to the area. The work group that most of you participated in has come up with a plan to make sure that we don't increasingly have ongoing programs gobble up our ability to be entrepreneurial in stimulating our neighborhoods, in making sure that what we have is the ability to have projects that you all, the mayor, and other communities come up with to be able to bring those jobs, bring that affordable housing straight into the communities of Los Angeles. So this is not the consolidated plan, though we will be looking at the consolidated plan shortly. We expect the mayor's office to release that any time, and we'll be debating that in the Committee of Housing, Community, Economic Development in the coming weeks. And we have a deadline to be able to submit that to the federal government in February. But what this does is it begins to establish a policy with priorities for this city, saying that some of the difficult work that we have to do, for instance, looking at the fact that we might not have the services cap lifted as we have for the last decade, and we have to return money to the communities in different ways, but making sure that we have the ability as council members not only to look at a discretionary pot of catalytic projects, but also the ability to make sure that we all can sit down and see what's ready to go in this city, so that money is never sitting around, so that it's always out there in the community, and that we make sure that the mayor's office reflects those same poverty statistics. And I know Mr. Parks has that motion which spells out even more clearly our desire on that, and I thank him for that, because I think it's critical that that be at all levels of the elected officials that are going to be looking at anti-poverty policy, but that also make sure that each community, and I know that we had this fight, and Ms. Gruhl and Mr. Padilla were strong leaders in the Valley to make sure the Valley had their fair share, because poverty has unfortunately risen in the Valley dramatically, but that will really put that in print now, that will enshrine that in stone, that will make sure that the poverty statistics as they change also reflect where the money is going. This is a difficult thing to do, and I think all of us only bought off on it if we have a certain level of a pot that's catalytic, something at least $12 million or above, and I think that we're going to be able to get there. We'll look at that when the consolidated plan comes through, but in the meantime, this is a big step forward. I want to thank Ms. Gruhl for helping start this. I want to thank the HCED members. We had a unanimous, all 5 members, supporting this policy, which really gives the council the power that it needs to be able to have those catalytic projects, and I urge today your support. I know there's a couple different amendments, both of all 3 of which I support, that'll add some additional priorities, but I urge your support of this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Councilmember Gruhl.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Garcetti. I think Eric talked about the major change that we're having in this CDBG proposal before you today, and it really revolutionizes the way the city distributes its federal dollars. And for too long, we have kind of, it's been a give and take, and there's been a lot of flexibility, which is good in some days. But for some parts of the districts of the city of Los Angeles, they've not received their fair share. And as Mr. Garcetti also mentioned, last year we talked about the San Fernando Valley and the fact that the poverty had increased. And we wanted to ensure that the distribution dollars reflected those poverty statistics, and that it was something that was a very much a transparent system, something in which all of our communities who are impacted could have an idea about how those funds were going to be distributed. And I think that we want to ensure that they go to those areas that can help alleviate poverty in the city of Los Angeles. I think also that it takes us to, establishing those clear standards that we can all be familiar with, and we know when the dollars are coming out, how they're going to be distributed in the areas of the city. I want to, again, commend Mr. Garcetti for his leadership on this as well, and for all of the members. It's not an easy task to make some decisions on how funds are being distributed. It's really one of the major ways in which we are able to impact our neighborhoods. But I believe this is a fair distribution of the way we're going to spend money, and it was done while we didn't have the programs right in front of us. This was done in a way that said, let's develop a policy that we can reflect on. And I am very pleased that we have this before us today. I also, you'll see I introduced an amendment on the agenda item that we include the construction and renovation of child care facilities as a priority as well. We have an opportunity with $600 million from the First 5 initiative to be able to leverage those dollars in building child care facilities. And within the next month or so, you will be seeing a child care policy for the city of Los Angeles that is also going to have a focus for us on ways in which we can create more quality, affordable child care. So I think that we need to invest in our children. They're our future, and I think that we believe that our future is bright if we can invest in those kids, and all of us as parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles know that our children are really critical. So I ask also for your aye vote today on this revolutionary policy that is going to distribute funds to areas of the city that desperately need it, and to ensure that someone who represents the Valley, that we similarly receive that fair share. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd also like to thank Mr. Garcetti for tireless hours of bringing this to some conclusion, and I guess we have a little work to do next week when we see the final report. I just want to comment on my motion was that I think it's important that as we move forward on this, that we use the same standards, whether we have the percentage of 70 or 30% for the mayor's office, 70% for the council, and we use that same formula. But I do think that I'm going to make a verbal motion to expand on my written motion that we have a slight exception for citywide youth prevention and intervention programs have the ability to use some discretion in that area. But I think that in going forward, really, I think that we've tried, at least in the Housing Committee, to address most of these needs. It is going to be tough for us with that cap dropping from 25% to 15%. And so there's going to be many programs that have historically sought funding, received funding, that are going to have some critical issues to be confronted during this next year. And some of the things that we felt very comfortable with housing, a variety of things dealing with the homeless, those are issues that are dear to most of our hearts, but the finances are not going to be there. But we certainly, I think, hopefully next week we'll have the ability to give the best plan for the use of this money. But I think in altering my motion, we give a little bit more discretion to deal with LA Best and also the Bridges programs, which all of us benefit from.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Is anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? If not, Mr. Clerk, we had some amendments submitted.
There was a written amendment by Councilmember Gruhl, seconded by Councilmember Garcetti. I didn't receive one from Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks, it doesn't appear that your motion has been circulated or introduced. Mr. Garcetti, can you clarify?
Verbally? Why don't you just read it, and then we can...
Let me just do it verbally. Move that on item 5, today's agenda, Housing Committee and Economic Development Report relative to Community Development Block Grant Task Force 30th Year Consolidated Program Funding be amended to delete 2F and adopt a new 2F to read, apply the same formula allocated based on poverty as applied to council districts, council's 70% share to the mayor's 30% share, with the exception for citywide youth intervention and prevention programs.
All right. I believe that amendment, as well as Ms. Gruhl's, are accepted by the chair without objection. So the matter as amended by those two motions is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Mr. Clerk, what else is before us?
That concludes the agenda items for today.
Are there any items remaining on the desk?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Garcetti requests to be excused on Tuesday, January 27th for city business, meets policy.
Mr. Garcetti is excused.
Councilmember Padilla requests to be excused on Tuesday, January 27th for city business, meets council policy.
Mr. Padilla is excused as well.
Councilmember Miskowski requests to be excused on Friday, January 23rd for city business, meets council policy.
That excuse is approved.
Councilmember Smith requests to be excused to leave at 11:30 on Wednesday, January 14th for city business, meets council policy.
That excuse is also approved.
Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused on Tuesday, January 13th for city business, meets council policy.
Mr. Reyes is excused on the 13th.
Councilmember Cardenas requests to be excused to leave at 11:45 on Tuesday, January 20th for city business, meets council policy.
Mr. Cardenas is excused on that date.
And Councilmember Ludlow requests to be excused to arrive late at 10:45 on Wednesday, January 14th for city business. Motion is required.
Mr. Weiss moves, Mr. Parks seconds. Mr. Ludlow is excused to arrive late on that date.
That clears the desk, Madam President.
All right. Members, are there any announcements? Any announcements, members? Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Tomorrow, I'll be having my regular scheduled office hours at CD 13, but we're also going to be doing a neighborhood walk in the area of kind of west historic Filipino town, basically between Virgil and Candelet, in that area, towards Temple and Beverly Street. So we'll be going out knocking on doors and doing some cleanup stuff. So if anybody is interested in coming and walking with us, please feel free to drop by the CD13 field office, 3525 Sunset, and we'll be heading out just a little bit before 1. So come on by. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn, did you have an announcement?
No, I'm sorry.
No, all right. Any other announcements? Mr. Labange?
Yes, this Sunday at 1 o'clock at Campo de Cahuenga on Lancashire, the historic reenactment of the signing of the end of the war between Mexico and California, and the wonder of history that brought about California itself and the Campo de Cahuenga historic site. It's a public event. You're welcome to come, and to all to take the Red Line subway from all parts of the region to Campo de Cahuenga for reenactment of this famous part of the history of California on Sunday at 1 p.m. on Lancashire Boulevard across from Universal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Any other announcements? Any adjourning motions? We do have adjourning motions. Would everyone please stand for adjourning tributes? Let me recognize Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, today, along with the Mayor's office, I would like to ask us to adjourn in the memory of Rear Admiral Robert Garrick, who was a childhood friend and neighbor of my father. Rear Admiral Garrick, who passed away just before Christmas at the age of 83, began working as a tour guide at the Los Angeles Times in 1939. He enlisted in the Navy in 1942 and was a combat correspondent on the staff of Admiral Chester Nimitz. He was active in the Naval Reserve Association, the Navy Memorial Foundation, the Veterans Memorial Center in Los Angeles and San Diego, and supported the Naval Academy recruitment program. Throughout his lifetime, he received many awards for his dedication to service, including the Legion of Merit, 2 Navy Commendation Medals, the Asia Pacific Ribbon, and 16 Combat Stars, a World War II Victory Medal, the American Theater Medal, the Philippines Liberation Medal, and numerous other honors. Following World War II, he returned to the Times and advanced to Assistant Director of Public Relations. In 1951, he started his own public relations firm and twice received the prestigious Public Relations Society of America's Silver Anvil Award, the highest recognized award in the public relations field. His other achievements include appointments by President Reagan as Deputy Counselor in 1980 and later as a member of the board of ComSat, a New York Stock Exchange company. His many memberships include the Greater Los Angeles Press Club, the Press Photographers Association of Greater Los Angeles, the Jonathan Club, the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick, the Economic Roundtable, and the Public Relations Society of America. He resided in San Diego and survived by his wife, Billy Claire, and his children, Martin and Patty. Services will be held this Saturday at 11:30 at Forest Lawn in Glendale, and a reception will follow at the Tam O'Shanter restaurant at 2980 Los Feliz Boulevard. In lieu of flowers, the family has suggested that those who would like should make donations in memory of Rear Admiral Robert Garrick at the Navy League of the U.S. Foundation.
Thank you. Mr. Labange.
Thank you. Members, I'd like to ask we adjourn in memory of Francis S. Wong, who lived to be 83 years old. He was the father of Russell Wong, who is a sergeant of police at the Rampart area, and also Curtis Wong. They were great residents of the city of Los Angeles. Both those young men were men I coached when I coached high school football at John Marshall. But Frank S. Wong was very involved in this community and was a wonderful man, was loved by many people and impacted. He lived to be 83 years old. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you. Members, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Mason Max Warren, a longtime labor leader in Sacramento and Arizona. He died of prostate cancer this past Monday at the age of 83. Mr. Warren was a retired vice president of the Laborers International Union of North America. In his 66 years as a union member, he influenced employee rights and laws, was active in organizing, and encouraged cooperation between employees and management. Among other labor issues, he was instrumental in helping gain bargaining rights for farm workers in California, ensuring job safety regulations and enforcement for all wage earners, and in leading the union's fight to restore and protect the 8-hour day and overtime pay. He joined Union Local 383 in Phoenix in 1937 when he was 17 years old. In 1943, Mr. Warren enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces, and after his discharge, Mr. Warren returned to Phoenix and again became active in the union local and took on various union leadership roles. In '69, the Labor's Union appointed Mr. Warren manager for the Pacific Southwest region, and in '75, he was elected international vice president, and then he retired in 2000. Mr. Warren organized beyond the traditional classification of construction labor. Today, the 71,000 Labor's Union members in California, because of his work, include librarians, nurses, water system specialists, healthcare, and public employees. He will always be remembered for labor leadership, community service, and political activism. He is survived by his wife, Julia, son, Mitch, daughter, Janice Barunda of Los Angeles, and 2 grandchildren.
Okay, and Mr. Villaraigosa will be added to that. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of John Alexander McAllister, born September the 12th, 1923, died at the age of 80 years old Thursday, January 1st, 2004. He was a LAPD officer for 30 years. He served in practically every capacity, from police officer to motor officer, detective. He also served as all the way through the ranks to the rank of deputy chief. He was known for his unwavering high standards and integrity, exceptional leadership. He also is best remembered that he authored the complete reorganization of the police department that now serves the Operations Valley Bureau, West Bureau, and all of those decentralized functions. He also served as the first commanding officer of Operations Valley Bureau. He retired from LAPD in '79 after serving as a deputy chief and chief of staff to Chief Davis at that time. Since then, he spent his life traveling, playing tennis, and a variety of other functions. He will be missed by many. He will have his life celebrated at Rose Hills Memorial Park in Whittier with full military and police honors on Saturday, January the 10th at 1:30. He leaves his wife of 54 years, Patricia Ruth, 3 children, one of which is a current LAPD detective.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Any other? Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Request we adjourn in memory of Frank DeFeo, passed away January 2nd. Frank DeFeo was an immigrant from Italy, quit school in the 6th grade to help support his family. He married in 1931, had 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. He worked as a laborer for most of his life. During World War II, he worked at the Kaiser shipyards in Providence, Rhode Island as a welder, then at a foundry for the next 20 years, and finally a custodian at a junior high school until his retirement at age 71. Frank is the father of Assistant Chief Robert J. DeFeo, Division I Commander, Los Angeles City Fire Department. He'll be greatly missed by his family and friends. He's survived by his son, L.A. Assistant Fire Chief Robert J. DeFeo, William DeFeo, Frank DeFeo, and Patricia Hannon. May Frank DeFeo rest in peace.
Mr. Villaraigosa wants to be on that as well, and Mr. Labange.
And I have a second one at the request of our city photographer, Ron Butcher, a good friend of Ron Butcher and his family. Miriam Yosoloff Kirsch Gasner, 34-year-old, passed away January 6th in New York City when she was struck by a vehicle while crossing the street. She was a securities analyst for Sanford and Bernstein in New York. She is survived by her husband, Rainer, a 9-month-old son, Alexander, her mother, Deborah Lakoff, her father, Mark, and sisters, Jill Schaefer and Sarah Yasoloff. May she rest in peace.
Madam, Mr. Clerk, call the roll. Council is adjourned.
watching LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.